Alright, so I'm going to just run through the TA routine. I'm going to run through adding the BB system onto it. I'm going to show you how to make a trade plan, and this is all you need for almost every chart. And this is how most of my friends chart now because it's so easy. It's not because it's the best way. It's just, I mean, it is almost the best way because it's so easy. Not because we're the greatest or anything. We're not trying to like sound like that, but a big thing though when you start is grabbing your range. So as you can see, NVDA is not really in a good spot for this example. So I'll do another one after so you can see the range. But a big thing you do though, let's say current price was like right here, you would mark a range around that. Okay, so first of all, you're only marking emerging candles. Okay, so you're only marking the top of these buyer candles from the left side, going left to right like a book. Okay, never do I go right here and go, that's an emerging candle, because it's not. It's a good candle I can mark that was a good buyer candle, but it's not an emerging candle. Because an emerging candle is something that breaks a new area. I didn't break a new area. We've already been there before, as you can see right there. So that level shouldn't be marked because of this candle. It should be marked because of this candle. So just so you know, that's why you always go from left to right. That's why price history matters so much. So I kind of got most of my range. I'm not going to go crazy with it. But the weekly is what you start on with, so you can get your range going, and then you can kind of conform around that. But now you have the daily time frame. You come down, you're going to do the same exact thing, except now you're not just grabbing a range. Now you're grabbing every emerging candle you can. So kind of zoom in a little, so you don't have to like, squint so hard. It kind of hurts my eyes too. And grab anything that is an emerging candle or a gap range. See how I grabbed that gap range? Very important gap range. See how it was tested or later on? Very amazing. Not marking the top of that red candle as you may see, because it's not an emerging candle. It's not a buyer candle pushing up. It is a seller candle. It just gapped up that really. It just gapped up really high. Me marking something that we gapped up to isn't really helpful. That is more random than it is calculated. So we have most of those. Can mark a couple more. But that's why it's so easy for me. Like it looks easy it looks like it's easy for me to chart, but it's not. I'm just doing it really fast because I've done it a million times, and that's my whole point with this system. You don't just do it once and you expect to be amazing at charting. Like no, you got to do this for a few months, get used to going through the repetition of it all, and then you'll be like, okay, well, crap, it really was that easy. And you'll see the preparation that goes into this is insane. So again, left to right, you're marking those emerging candles. Okay, now we're kind of getting closer to all-time highs now. So let me zoom back out. Let's just zoom in on this. So now again, marking these, and that's just for future. And you know why I get to leave those lines there, Pops? I leave those lines there because they're good forever now. I don't ever have to delete these. That's another really cool thing about this system. You don't just mark these levels and then you need to delete them again at the end of the day. No, no, no. If you wanted to leave them there forever, you could. If you're someone who likes to reset your chart like me, like I love resetting my charts. I will go back through the end of the day and I will clear all of them, and then I will go back through again as time progresses, and I will go back through them again. But again, just marking your emerging candles, mark that high, and that's about all you can do right there. So the very next step in this Pops, and this isn't just for Pops, he's just the only one big enough to actually reach out and say, yo, I want some help with this. So if you're someone who didn't reach out and you're finding this helpful, awesome. So again, thank you, Pops, and that's again why reaching out and engaging helps, because you're also helping people who don't want to ask or haven't thought to ask that question. It isn't even that they don't want to; they might not have thought to ask that question. So the next step in this is going down to about the 4 hour. A lot of people go to the 4 or 1 hour. It doesn't matter which one you go to. The big point of going to this one is marking trend lines. So yes, you can mark an effective trend line on the daily too. But it won't be as accurate if I was to go down to the 4 hour and be able to perfectly grab the high from here to the resistance here, the low from here to the support right here. So you won't get an as accurate line. So I'm going to go to the 4 hour and I'm going to mark those perfectly accurate lines. So first line I see, so I'm going to grab from the low of my move. Actually, no, I'm not grabbing that one. Another good lesson here, Pops, too, is grabbing current trend. So right here you had this downtrend and then it ended up popping back out off of its primary trend. Very bullish price action. Where should I grab from on this trend line? A lot of people just grab from the bottom, but that's not where you should grab from. You should grab from recent trend. Okay, so this was like super bullish just to get us up here. This is where the recent trend is kind of forming. It's kind of forming off of this now. So you kind of have this angle going off of it right there. So it's kind of the angle of trend line I'm going to go for right now. So I'm going to go off of about recent price action, but you can see it. You have like super bullish price action right here, and then it kind of levels off. Then it gets a little more steeper, and then it kind of levels off again, and then you get kind of a range here. That's kind of what you're watching now for NVIDIA, is that range. And this is why I still went with this example, even though price was at all-time highs, is because a big thing that throws traders off is they think they're done trading right here. It is risky to trade all-time highs, but it's not impossible though. So the very next levels pops, what do you think I should mark? What are the only levels above this that I could probably mark? Besides using a Fibonacci extension, what other levels could I mark right here? I'll give you a couple seconds. Well, the levels that I'm looking for above this that I can't mark without using fib extensions or without just being random are levels of psychology. So, what's the last resistance that I have sitting here? About 721. And what are the biggest levels of resistance? Zeros and fives. So the levels that I'm going to be marking are going to be 725, 730, 735, and so on and so on and so on until I have them all. With NVIDIA especially, every 5 is what you want to mark. Now remember though, every $1 is technically also psychological, and that's something big that we do with Boeing. A lot of people will hit me up and say, yo, I'm sorry, I think I'm lazily marking targets. Right now I just have every dollar. And I'm like, no, that's how it is sometimes. Sometimes it just is that way. It just is every dollar. So yes, a base rule is every dollar is a good target after your breakout, but that's sometimes also how the TA lines up. Sometimes your TA will also line up. If you go mark all those emerging candles, you go mark all your levels of common support and resistance, you're going to get those levels of psychology sometimes, and it's going to freak you out. But that, again, and you'll always hear me come back to this point, price action should always do that. It should freak you out sometimes with how accurate it is because that's price action. Price action should always line up. So, big point of this too, and again, you saw me mark and that's all the TA routine pops. I'm not even done yet. Now you go to the BB system. Now what can I mark? Is there anything else I can mark? Let's see. So I'm going to mark, of course, my yesterday low. There's a good level there. I kind of already have my yesterday high marked. It's about right there. So now my trade plan is calls above my resistance to the only known levels of psychology that I have above, or puts below about 710.75. A lot of people would just say 710.86. I'm a big psychological dude. I think you should always mark those 25s your quarters, your 25, 50, 75, 100. So that's what I like to go off of. So 710.75 is going to be my break below. Damn, Charlie's a little apprentice or whatever on the news thing scared the crap out of me. But that's the trade plan right now. So as you can see, NVIDIA is just range trading in between this. That is our trade plan. Let's go find another example though. Send me a ticker, Pops. Let's find an example that isn't at all-time highs so I can show you something in between. But was that helpful though, Pops? Was that helpful that you're able to chart all of that? You don't have to delete any of the lines. And if you do want to delete the lines, you can. You can re-add them and should still have the same trade plan. Also, creating your trade plan with the BB system and TA routine. So in this example, you saw I really didn't have to mark a whole lot. BB system was kind of already marked for me. I really just had to kind of clean it up a little bit. It's the easiest charting technique, and it really doesn't take a smart individual. I'm really not a genius or anything. Like, it really, there's geniuses who use this, there's dumb people who use this. We all get the same TA. That's the whole point of this. So, you said AMD. Let's do AMD as the example. So again, current price is not at all-time highs. So this is a better example. But why I still went with NVIDIA is because I kind of wanted to show you the psychological part. The psychological part of resistances and support. So a lot of people don't use that kind of stuff, but that's something I'm really big on. So first step in this, we're on the weekly time frame, and we're starting on grabbing our range. So I'm going to grab emerging candles just to kind of get our range. So I'm grabbing the top, and we're grabbing an emerging candle that's close to a support around current price. So I can see I have that. And if you ever need to go out further, of course you can. I'd probably mark about right there. So it's about everything you need on the weekly. Now we can go to the daily, and again, zooming in. I don't really need to focus on the whole right side of the chart yet. So I'm going to mark that gap range. I can mark that. Emerging candle, emerging candle, an emerging candle. See, I'm not marking these. Now, it is still a good level of resistance here. I'm not saying it isn't. But what was it before it was a level of resistance here? If I mark that control point, I actually end up getting that same resistance. So It's just stuff like that that shows you, you really are kind of missing out on a lot of stuff by looking at just the far right of the chart. So again, kind of going through marking anything I might have missed. So a big thing that you'll start to learn as you go through this too is earlier you heard me say, I would never mark that. That would never be a good one. Actually, I would mark that in this scenario. And why? Well, I don't really have a top of an emerging candle right here. Like, yes, we've been over this, but I haven't really been right here yet. So I'm of course gonna mark that, and you can see the significance of it. It's a good common resistance, support, and it's the small decisions you have to make as you're going through this TA routine that will help you do that. And you'll adapt to that over time as you start using it more. I'm just marking that gap range. Let's move over to the right now. Might not need to mark anything else. Let's see, I can mark this support here since we haven't been there yet. Didn't mark it over on the left side, so just to get it there. And then now I'm kind of focused on current trend. What did I say? So we had our drop, we got our base, kind of getting a rise again, and now we're getting another base. So I'm going to mark the range around this base. So I got a good emerging candle here, and you can mark this level if you want. You almost don't really need to mark that though. You have a better level here at 82.65. But if you want to go ahead and mark it, you can. But so you have that level. There's also a good gap range here in which this lines up with. Wow. See that? The gap range lines up right there. Lined up with that support. The common resistance turn support there. See how that lines up? It's really crazy. And that's a lot of the time is how you're going to see stuff like that. So now we can go down to the 4 hour. We can get our trend lines going. And another thing too, notate stuff, just kind of in your head. What do you see on here? Price rose into this, and really, as soon as you look at this, you should see we're in a really big range trade. We're not really bearish or bullish here. We're range trading on a bullish range. So you have your outsides of your range, all that good stuff. You've already marked all your other good stuff. Now kind of focus on the recent trend. Since hitting all-time highs, what has AMD done? It has really just kind of formed a downtrend. So I'm kind of focused on this downtrend look. No, I'm not leaving those lines. I just kind of like to look at it that way, so you can kind of get a good picture of what you're looking for. So right now, just based off of just that, I would say that AMD doesn't just need to keep rally base rallying. It needs to rally base rally not only over 83, but out of this downtrend resistance that it currently has above it. So it needs to definitely get above that. So it isn't just going to be super bullish once it breaks out again. It still has one more problem to hit before it's truly home free. So now I'm going to go down to the 4 hour and I'm going to mark some trends. So we got our drop, we got a base, we got a rally, base, rally, kind of have a base form again. So just like NVDA, and it should be just like NVIDIA, they're both semiconductors. They're stocks of the same sector, same industry. You could see, just like NVIDIA, it is rally and is basing right now. Whether it's going to rally or drop again, we don't know, but we will be prepared for it. So what is my trade plan for AMD? I really don't even have to mark any trend lines on this either, because it's just a rally base rally. So right now I'm not really focused on trend lines right now. I don't really always, you don't always have to have a trend line. If you want to do that, you can, of course, too, just for extra. But pops, what would be my break above on this? And see, sometimes you don't have to go all the way down. I didn't even go down to the 30-minute to mark any more levels. I kind of almost have everything I need because you can see how important this range is. You can see calls above 82, 82.60s is going to be where you're looking for calls. If this ends up not holding right here, you're going to be looking for puts. So you can see we're just stuck in a range at a 50-50. And yes, you can learn to trade in between this all you want, but for now you need to focus on open range breakouts, the basics of pre-market high breakouts, very basic breakouts, and the basic breakouts are almost always the best breakouts because of how basic they are. A lot of people end up getting into them. People can see the common resistance when it breaks out, the bids flying. So I hope that was helpful though. And that's really big in how I set up my trade plan. But as you see though, let's move down to the time frames. Let's mark my BB system. Okay, so I got my pre-market set up. I got my previous day low set up. So now, even if the bigger 4 hour play didn't happen, you see nothing's happening on the 4 hour. I'm not really going anywhere. But what's happening on the smaller time frames? You had a fake out first 20, 30 minutes of the day. What do I say? I always say don't ignore those unless you're scalping. If you're not scalping this, you shouldn't be trading it because it's never just going to keep going. I mean, you'll almost never catch a stock that just instantly keeps going out from open. Sometimes you will, but don't plan for that. Is what I'm trying to get at. But what happened here? Let's break down what happened. So after the first 30 minutes, let's ignore those three. What happened? So the next candle went up, rejected pre-market high, sat on top of here. Okay, so we're still 50-50. Really, nothing has happened for AMD in the first 40 minutes of it. Just looking at the 10-minute. Next candle closes under. Here, I'll put on the easier volume so we can all see it. So you can see here you had rising buyers up to that, but a lower high. So you have some divergence there that's bearish. Okay, but again, we're ignoring those first 40 minutes, just breaking it down a little further. But what do you have after that? Rising seller volume after you closed under that. So now you're a little more bearish than you were when you were here or here. If anything, you should be looking at this as an 80% entry or this as an 80% entry. Price ends up holding under. Now what are you doing? What do I always say you need to mark up after? You need to always mark up your new high and lows of days. So what do you have here? You need to have your new low marked and you already have your high marked. So you're done. You just keep that mark. So now you have double confirmation that it is going to keep going under when price closes under the 80.88. What did price end up doing? You had rising volume as price kept closing under. Where did price end up slowing down and gave you a bullish candlestick pattern? Previous day low. So that would confirm we are still trading within our 4-hour range, but also you were able to identify where you could have taken a trade opportunity even on just the smaller time frames. So yeah, we're still waiting on the bigger analysis to play out for the bigger play, but we were also able to break down how you could have made a smaller trade opportunity. So I hope that was helpful. I'll make sure to post this in chat too, so if anybody who wasn't in the stream at this time could also kind of go back over this. But yeah.